everyone, I'm Katie Teitler, Senior Analyst with Tag Cyber, and today I'm here with Shamala Boyd, SVP of Risk Management and Global Customer Success at ControlCase.
Hi, Kate.
Shamala, thank you for joining me. We are going to have a really interesting conversation. Most of the time when I do these interviews, we talk about security platforms or topic areas. But today we're going to get into a topic that's near and dear to both our hearts and should be for everybody in cyber. So the topic is women in cybersecurity. And as you know, currently only 20 to 25% of the cybersecurity workforce is female. Of course, when we do surveys, there's always a little bit of a range depending on what source you read. And that number's not bad because only a few years ago, that number was 11%. So there is an increase. However, if we look at the industry and what we're doing, that's still a pretty low number. But even more alarmingly, there was a survey by Kaspersky that said 78% of young girls out of high school actively exclude cybersecurity from their career plans. And then alarmingly, the Girl Scouts, who actually have a huge cybersecurity initiative, did a survey, and only 27% of girls enrolled in STEM programs. So specifically in science, technology, engineering, and math programs, only 27% of them are interested in pursuing a cybersecurity related career, whether computer science or IT. That number goes down to 11% for those girls not enrolled in STEM. So we know that the pipeline is smaller than it needs to be, and we need to come up with better ways to encourage girls and show them that this is a great choice. I've been in cyber for a long time. You've been in cyber for a long time. We know how good it can be. All of my colleagues who are women love this career, but there's some barriers to entry. So one of the things I'd love to hear from you, Shamala, is how did you get into cyber? How did you get interested?
So funny enough, when my neighbor introduced, he came to me and he's like, you should go into cybersecurity, because I had a technology background. I kind of worked in sales for a while. And the first thing I said was, I don't want to be a hacker, so that was my impression of everything cyber was you had to be a hacker. And as I wanted to change fields, I decided that it was a natural fit to go back to school and get into cyber. And once I started taking the coursework, you wouldn't believe, Kate, I was like, I should have been doing this a long time ago. I love this. And I just kept studying more and more and more and got introduced to the field. As you were talking about barriers, there are some barriers sometimes to get into cyber because cyber can be expensive. You look at some of the certifications that we sometimes we have to take. Those prep courses can range into the thousands. And for women that may be just getting out of school, they may not have the money to pay for those courses. Or women that are transitioning their career, they have to think about their families. Like, and do I have the money to do that? So one of the things that I did to overcome in that barrier was I searched Google. Is there any free cybersecurity courses or seminars out there? And I found a group called Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. And I found out there's actually organizations for women that help them reduce that cost and do the training for them. So there are ways to kind of get around those barriers.
So are your degrees in cyber, or did you start somewhere and move somewhere else? What kinds of courses specifically, or what kinds of degrees do you have?
Sure. I have a master's in science and cybersecurity, and I have an MBA. Where I went to school, they allowed you to do a dual program or your master's in a specific field and then your MBA. So I did 3 years opposed to the traditional 2. So I did that program. And so in that master's of cybersecurity program, it took you through different phases of cybersecurity. So you got to understand that everybody wasn't a hacker like I thought. And that's kind of how I became interested in risk management and through that coursework. And then outside of that, I started taking courses with the Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu.
So that's really cool because you merged a security degree with a completely non-security degree, but you had a business degree which allowed you to improve all of those skills that make you an executive and a leader and somebody with good communication skills. But that's not, when we talk about cybersecurity and getting people into cybersecurity, that's not the first thing you think of is, oh, let's go pursue how to be a good business leader. But that's pretty important.
Yes, it's very important because if we want to see more women in leadership, they have to get the skills that they need to be in leadership. Those managerial skills, learning how to sell yourself to a board, learning how to sell ideas for your team to your CEO. Those things are very important. And that was the importance of me doing that MBA part, is that I knew at this point in my career, I wanted to go strive towards leadership, and I wanted to be in risk management at a certain point. Now, I had background with customer experience. So I actually work in customer experience, even inside of cyber, handling escalations for customers. My team works on that, making sure that customers have a great experience when they're working with our company and doing compliance activities. So we utilize that, even that in cyber. So when you were talking about that 7-8% of young girls excluding themselves, like cyber is not for me, is I think if we reach them younger and let them know that there's so many things you can do in cyber, then they'll look differently. It would be like, oh, I don't want to be a hacker, I don't want to be a coder. They'll see that there's other business activities that go into cyber as well.
Oh, for sure. And what's really cool, looking back at that Girl Scout study, so when we think of cybersecurity, people might think of hacking or stopping the hackers, but in terms of a career and what's important, we know that people have different motivations for choosing their career. Mm-hmm. And the study that I was referring to before, 94% of STEM girls and 83% of non-STEM girls say that helping people is one of the things they want to do. It's an important part of whatever career they choose. Like you just said, you've been dealing with escalations and cases and customer success. That is helping people. Maybe it's not going out and feeding the hungry, but it is absolutely helping people. And as cyber and our digital ecosystems make cybersecurity even more important, because a bad experience, whether it's a stolen identity or stolen intellectual property, those can have huge implications on people's lives. So the idea that helping people is part of cybersecurity, or another data point from that report, making a difference in the world, cybersecurity does that. So we can look at the things that young girls say they want, helping people, and then the next question was making a difference in the world. Respectively, 92% of STEM girls and 82% of non-STEM girls say making a difference in the world is important. We don't talk about that in cybersecurity, except maybe amongst our friends, but there are a lot of people in security who are making a difference in the world.
I totally agree with that. When we go into our office every day, I think that we are making a difference in security. I tell my nephew when he tells his friends, what is your undo? I say, we make a difference on the internet every day to make it safe for you. And just thinking about what we do at ControlCase as a company, just specifically in my field in compliance, we make a difference every day, making sure everyone can go to a retail environment or a grocery store and they can swipe their card without the risk of thinking someone's going to steal their information. So we are trying to make a difference in our community. I think we also make a difference when we're going out and working with young girls and let them know there's opportunities out there for you, and you have a group of women here that are willing to help you get there. And that's making a difference in our community as well. So every day I'm proud to be in cyber. As you can tell, any discussion about cyber, I'm here for. And I'm also any discussion about helping someone else get into this field. I'm always here for. I think us women in cyber, we love to have those discussions.
So that's a really good discussion point. We did a survey at Tag Cyber a little while ago, and I wrote a nice piece that included some female leaders at cybersecurity companies. And all 4 of those women that I interviewed said mentorship is a good way to attract women to the field. Shamala, what are some of the other ways we can attract women to cybersecurity?
I think some of the other ways are just, starting younger. We definitely need to start younger with introducing girls into cyber, and just giving them that foundation that you can do so many things. Like Women's at Cyber Jitsu, they have Cyber Jitsu girls, and they have a camp each year where they work with, do an introduction to cyber for middle school and high school girls. As you mentioned, Girl Scouts, they have their programs. I think starting younger is a great way to get people into cyber. And also, I think women should look into these nonprofit organizations and find their niche, because they're also, outside of just mentorship that they have so many classes, so many tools that are available to you. Job boards, they're helping you with getting jobs and getting connected with other women. So say you're not in the field yet and you're just, you're tiptoeing in with interest, right? Just get into those nonprofits and do some work with them and see if that you find interest there. I also think that our workforce should reflect. When a young girl can see someone doing a role, they can see themselves in it. But if they see that there's no women in that role, it could sometimes hinder them from trying to pursue that. And we should not discourage our young girls either that may be interested in being in a role that they don't see a woman. But that's what they want to do. We should continue to encourage that and encourage that fight in that young girl. So I think some of those things are just stepping out and helping our community.
Representation is a huge part of it. And again, we're growing, it's getting better, and the representation has grown over the last few years. But in addition to representation, what are some of the benefits of an organization hiring more women? What does it bring to the company, whether in the cybersecurity department particularly, or to the company as a whole?
Yeah, diversity is important, so there should be some diversity in our leadership when you're making decisions. So I'm glad you kind of highlighted it from a company level as well as just cyber, because being in cybersecurity, your only decision is not saying put a firewall right here, right? It's also informing the company of their risk. Also, and that risk could be, employment engagement risk, any type of risk for your organization. So you sit at that level. And a woman having that diversity and having women having a seat at the table, it just gives a different perspective. Everybody makes decisions based on their experiences. And then if you have someone in the room that has different experiences, they see things differently. So even when you're talking about employment engagement, like, why aren't our employees engaged? And someone's like, let's just give them more vacation time. Having a different person in the room can say, hey, we need to get to the root of the problem. And it may not be vacation time. Are we looking at their workload, or, are we giving them a proper, workload? So just having different perspectives of that. Also, our clients look to see if you have diversity, right? Because we never know that client, that CEO that you're taking that business from, they may have daughters and they want to see that there's diversity there. They may have diversity initiatives in their own organization and they want to work with companies that they see reflect. So your leadership should reflect your employee base. It should mirror your employee base, and it should mirror your community that you serve.
And diversity, we're talking specifically about women in cyber today, but diversity in all forms, all shapes, sizes, and colors is so important. And ControlCase is a global organization. We were talking about that a little bit before we started recording here today. And I imagine, because you are in charge of customer success as well at ControlCase, when you're going out into your customer base around the world, seeing that you're a woman, but not just a woman of color, and you have a different background and different heritage than others in your organization. And when you bring that in, you can relate to other people. You can use your differences to relate to other people or open up conversations. And there may be some kind of cultural difference between an organization and its customers if they're global. And if you have that cultural diversity, that helps with the connection.
Absolutely. Because with ControlCase, we do audits all over the world. And, and we also have a team that speaks multiple languages. You have multiple languages, multiple cultures, and we want to be able to satisfy our clients and also keep our employees happy. So having that diversity in leadership, having that diversity in our workforce, both women and, like you said, diversity ranges of a lot of different things. We also have, as a company, we accept everything. Like we encourage celebration of different events in different cultures. So everywhere we have an office, we celebrate everybody's holiday. And and we do, and we have fun. And any given time, you'll see me dressed in a sari. When we're doing celebrations in India, and I love it. And and the same with the same respect, our team in India, they celebrate our holidays here in America. So it's great. We've gone across those cultural barriers. And we also do that with our clients as well. We want them to feel comfortable with working with us. So if they say they only speak Spanish, I have a Spanish speaking CSM, I have a Spanish speaking assessor, let's go. We're ready to work with you. So whatever language it is, we're ready. So we do break those barriers as well.
That's awesome. That's really wonderful to hear. Speaking of barriers, so we've talked about a few of them, whether it's not seeing the representation or young girls or women having a misconception of what being in cyber means, or several things. But have you ever experienced any kind of discrimination or bias as a woman who's making great strides? I mean, you're not some low-level person here. You've got a VP title. You've earned your right. But have you ever come up against any kind of issues that you've had to deal with and look at things a little differently than you think you may have had to if you weren't a woman?
Well, I've been working for over 25 years now, so in different aspects of my life, I've been a woman the whole, the entire time. So, so things happen. And I think that what I've experienced over time has prepared me for today. And so I'm stronger for, different experiences. But I will say that all of that gender bias does not always come from a man. Sometimes it comes from women. And, some in my experiences, there's times where I can say, this is the statement, this is how this should work. Then my male coworker can say it, and then the customer's like, oh, okay. I'm like, we just said the same thing, and that happens. And also just that when I say gender bias, when it comes to other women, is that we just sometimes don't support each other. And because of how society has set it up where, there's a quota to each role, like, okay, we have a woman, we don't need another woman. So that woman doesn't want anyone to get in their space, right? And instead of us encouraging each other, that if we get to a space, that we're working with other women to help them get to where their goals are. And even if that goal means either you're parallel with me or above me, I'm still gonna help you. So we have to work on that as women as well.
For sure, having that support, having one another's backs, and it can come from women, it can come from men, it should come from everywhere. And unfortunately, sometimes we as women are put in a position where what we say isn't taken as seriously, and it just means we have to be stronger and more confident, and that's hard to do sometimes. But funny you should mention that, because I was having a text conversation with a good friend of mine who is also a leader in cybersecurity and who has come up through the ranks and working 35 years in the space, and we were talking about something else, but she said, just remember the old quote, what you think of me isn't my business.
Yes.
And so you have to sometimes remind yourself that people are going to have ideas of who you are and what you are and how you act, and you have to act on moral and principle and what you believe in, and don't let anybody else put you down because you're a woman or because you have different thoughts or different ideas.
And that's actually my fuel, right? That makes me go harder. So when someone tells me no, or it wasn't good enough, or can you do this one more time, or they're challenging my knowledge, it just makes me go harder. It doesn't discourage me. And I think that, if I would have allowed that to discourage me, 5, 6, 10 years ago, I wouldn't have this be here having this conversation with you, right? I would have been, pushed down so much, but instead I use it as my fuel. Like, okay, if I'm not good enough, I'm going to go back and just study harder. If I didn't do good on something this time, I'm just going to keep doing it over and over until it's perfect, till I get it to a good place. And so it has always been my fuel to keep the fire burning, to keep going. And that is what I want to try to do to encourage other women, is that people are going to everybody has opinion. You just said it. Everybody has opinion. It's not your problem. But you know what? Take what you want out of it and let that be your fuel to get better and to do better. So.
Yeah, you're pretty extraordinary, Shamala. You're extraordinary, and ControlCase is lucky to have you. But before we go here, aside from being confident in yourself, and of course with age and experience comes wisdom, and so you can feel that level of confidence, what advice do you have for girls coming into this space, or even women who might want to transition their skills in other areas? What should they know about cyber? What would you say to them if they were on this video right now?
No problem. I would probably let them know, one is find a mentor, and you never know where that mentor is going to come from. You may meet them in the grocery store, meet them anywhere, and I'll share a little bit about that. I was calling a retail environment I had done business with, and the lady said, "Oh, how are you working in this virtual world?" Right? And I said, "Oh, fine. I've always been virtual." And I was like, "So it's same to me." And so she said, "Do you mind if I ask you what you do?" And I said, "I work in cybersecurity." And you literally could see her light up. And I can see her, right? I could hear it on the phone that she was smiling. She said, "Can I ask you questions? Can I ask you questions?" Sure. So she asked me questions about getting into the field, and I shared with her. And I said, "Hey, feel free to find me on LinkedIn. And if you have any further questions, I'll either help you or direct you to another woman that I know." And she said, "No problem." So she did follow up, and she did that. And just this week, she told me she just finished her first semester of undergrad, in cybersecurity. That just blew me away. That blew me away.
Amazing.
And so you find your mentor, no matter where they are, and follow up and follow through, because there's someone there to support you. Once you get to a good space, don't stop learning. Don't stop trying to find more things to learn. Don't stop keeping up with what's going on in cyber. Always connect yourself with some type of cyber news or cyber initiatives, and find a group, find a home, find a group of people that can support you. Of course, I work with Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu, so I'm always going to make sure that's available to women. But there's other groups, not only just for women, there's for everyone. So you can do different groups that they're all across the country, even globally. There are groups that help women in this field. So I think that is very important to join and have a support system. And when you look for a company to work for, find a company that makes you happy, and don't just chase money. Money will come. Find a place that you're going to be happy and you can see yourself succeeding. It's very important being in a comfortable space, a place, a company that doesn't mind teaching you as an employee, if you're your first time getting into cyber. And that doesn't mind helping you grow. If you have that fire behind you, they'll help you grow. So look for that type of organization to be a part of.
And that feeds right back into the data that girls say they want to help people, they want to make a difference, find companies with common values, find places that accept you for who you are and will let you flourish. Really great advice. So Shamala, thank you. For everybody, again, Shamala Boyd, SVP of Risk Management and Global Customer Success at ControlCase. You can see why she's had success. Thank you for being on this video. Thank you for everybody watching. We hope you feel inspired to go out and pull some people into our ecosystem here, some women into our ecosystem, and make cybersecurity an even better place to work.